Welcome everyone you're listening to and perhaps watching Hot Sauce Sports. I am hoping I don't freeze once more. Joining me in lieu of Terry Tan is Duke the Graphite. How's it going, Duke?
What's up, man? Glad to be here. You're not frozen. Everything is okay.
Duke's filling in because Terry couldn't be here. The show typically goes off the rails when the two of us get together. And of course, trying to rein it all in is our producer, the Eagle at Master Control. How's it going, Eags?
I can guarantee you I will fail at keeping order in this conversation. Every time there's the two of you, what ends up happening is Pease is very reasonable, and then Duke gets lost. And then Pease has to fill, and then Duke gets lost. And then the process repeats itself for the next topic.
Yeah.
What are we talking about again?
That's the one. That's exactly the one. We have a guest on this week. Luca Scott joins us. Luca is a new Hot Sauce contributor. I'm really happy to have him on. It looks as though my face is frozen.
Yep.
So I don't know what to do. I promise you,
Stay frozen. Let's
my
roll.
house is quite warm. So if you touch my face, you would know that it's not actually frozen. So that's a benefit, I think.
You're not frozen anymore.
I'm unfrozen. I thought.
I unfroze you by going like
Oh,
that.
wait, no, it's back. It's back. We're going to be dealing with this the rest of the show, ladies and gentlemen. So just prepare
sorry
to see
about that.
stills of Pease's face in whatever form it decides to stop at.
Yeah.
Eagle,
Don't know what's going on. I pay a ton of money for internet. I miss the studio. Can this pandemic be done? Luca Scott joins us. Like I said, he's starting a new podcast with us called the We Got Balls podcast with him and Dean Bortoya, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what that show is going to be like. I'm excited. I keep saying Hot Sauce Sports has got kind of like a Fight Club thing going where I'm wandering through the house and I keep seeing all these people who are now joining our version of Project Mayhem, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of awesome.
You know, that movie makes me sad because it's always the blonde guy that gets his ass kicked in that movie.
Yeah,
like every time I watch it, he gets massacred, and I always feel for him, even if he looks a douchey.
Isn't that a metaphor for life? White douchebag gets his face beaten in. So there's some pretty awful stuff that's happened this week, and we're gonna get to that later. We have a pretty heavy show, especially at the beginning, so we don't want to beat that over the head with a mallet. Well, we tend to do this thing where we weave in some serious topics, we joke around about some other stuff. We'll get to the serious stuff that happened in Atlanta later. For those of you who've been watching the show or listening to the show for quite some time, if you are new to the proceedings, remember to like and subscribe to the show. For those of you who are returning, however, know that I'm very sensitive to things that happen in the Atlanta area. I have a lot of friends that are there. My wife is from the Atlanta metro area, so we'll talk about that later. For now, travesty not quite as high on that list, but Zack Snyder came out with his cut of the Justice League movie. The Justice League movie is the only movie in recent history that I actually walked away from about 20 minutes and I said, I can't do this. This is an absolute abject waste of my time. And now Zack Snyder's made it longer.
That's really funny. Before we get to that, my experience with a walking out kind of movie was Inception. I don't know. I will be the first one to tell you I'm as dumb as it gets. I am.
I love
that was
Rick
one of the
Morty
most painful movies to watch in the theater.
I love the Rick and Morty joke where Rick says to Morty, I know you didn't understand Inception. Don't stop trying to impress me, Morty. Yeah, no, I kind of was in between with Inception, Duke. I kind of was with you that like I feel like if you got hyped up to you and you watched the movie, you thought it was fine, and if you hadn't heard anything about it really before then, you watched it and you're like, this is great. I was kind of in your camp where I was like expecting this incredible movie, and I was like, it's all right. It's pretty. It's a pretty film.
Guy, if I need to watch a movie twice to get it, you're never gonna get me.
I have a friend who's a huge DC fan, and he gave up on the cinematic universe somewhere between the Batmobile having machine guns and Jared Leto.
So that's actually not the first time. The Batmobile has had guns in almost every iteration, and I don't know why that's the case. I actually didn't hate Jared Leto. I thought he was fine. And like, how can you be that mad at a guy who had 4 scenes in one movie? Like, whatever.
That's part of the problem right there, right? The hype was real, and it failed to deliver. But I digress.
You gotta love how he posts. He's literally just posting black and white pictures of himself in I guess in his Joker, I guess you can call it outfit or whatever. Just a simple image, and the vitriol and the hate this guy's getting for an image that's kind of blurry. You can't really tell. I mean, I just there's something about Batman fans that just get on my nerves. They always
like
have a better.
all the things I love are represented by the worst fandom ever. Like, for example, like I like Star Wars, worst fans ever. I like comic books, worst fans ever. I just feel like everything I like is largely represented by zealots, and I'm the furthest thing from a zealot when it comes to that kind of stuff.
So what's this about the Snyder movie? What's this about Batman?
He came out with his cut.
The Snyder cut, as opposed to the Whedon cut.
Yeah, because he had to stop directing the movie at one point, and Joss Whedon finished it, and then so this is the movie Zack Snyder wanted to put together. Full disclosure, I haven't seen it yet, but like I said, I really didn't like Justice League to begin with, so a longer version of that movie seems to be a giant waste of time.
But what is it about? What is it about it you didn't like?
Oh, it was a combination of some horrendous acting, a story that was going nowhere. A lot of the sets were done with horrible CGI, where it looked like it was like filmed in like the Maisonneuve Park. Like, it was just everything about it just felt kind of crappy. There was no fun, no excitement. There was nothing there. It was just bland and boring. And I was like, I'm not wasting 3 hours watching this, like fighting to get through it just because, I like Affleck and I like Batfleck.
Yeah, and Zack Snyder has a way of expecting his audience to know certain things about the characters and the franchise and the setting, and then relies on that knowledge for scenes that he sets up. So apparently this, like what Whedon worked with, was kind of based on that, and this edition has a lot of like that supplemental scenes that are just there essentially just to give the information to the average viewer a little bit more, hence why it's much longer, which they cut for the cinematic release, which should hopefully make it more logical or coherent. I mean,
he's a bad
who knows
storyteller.
Yeah.
He's a bad storyteller. He's always been a bad storyteller. He does some cool stuff. Like he sets up some great scenes. Like if you remember Batman vs Superman, the way that movie starts, where there's all the chaos in the streets from the buildings collapsing, it really resonated with a generation that grew up in the fear that existed, at the time of 9/11. And he really captured that feeling, and then proceeded to do nothing with it for 2 hours. So that's what Zack Snyder has been. That's what he'll always be. I'm curious. Are you guys going to bother checking it out? I will, obviously, just because of my nerddom and the fact that I don't sleep. What about you guys?
I didn't watch the first one, so I'm unlikely going to watch this one. So skip. But I'm interested to see what other people say that are much more into the whole DC universe.
I'll be honest. I'm really over the whole superhero thing. I can't. I'm over it. There's just too much of it. I just think I think with all of the superhero movies that come out, like it kind of made me crave different types of movies that are, I guess, nonfiction, movies that don't rely too much on CGI, which has been great because I've found a different lane when it comes to movie watching and stuff. I've tried to look out for indie movies and movies that don't have such a huge production budget. Mind you, I will say that I would love to see a great Superman movie, but there's just something about overly CGI superhero movies that just don't appeal to me anymore. But that's just my opinion. It doesn't mean that they're terrible, and I'm sure there's been some great ones out there.
Eagle, this is Duke doing an absolute callback, and I don't think he realized that Duke brought us back to where we were talking about the blonde douchebag. And with that, it's time for Terry's the news.
I just don't see why I should care about another superhero movie. I mean, aren't all the villains dead by now? I mean, what else is there? What else is there?
There's
to
new
explore?
villains that are stronger than ever before, and the
amazing.
risk is
I can't
still
wait.
at risk. I don't know. Just
Can't
look, put it this
fucking
way:
wait.
the best thing that's going to happen out of all of them is that there's going to be more superhero porn that's going to come out. So anything we can get away from the step sibling relationships and more into superheroes is good in my books.
Yeah, super cock. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
That's a fun way to introduce this next topic.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know how to segue now because it's super awkward.
Great stuff, guys.
I'm just gonna do it. Deshaun Watson,
Yeah.
being sued in a civil case. This started to break. Was it last night or 2 nights ago, where he kind of preemptively put out a statement in the Notes app, which that's a whole other thing. I'll get to the Notes app thing in a second. But let's wait first. He goes out and he says, "Listen, this is bullshit. I've only ever treated women with respect." So, like, from the wording, you knew this was gonna be bad.
According to him, right? According to him, it's always funny. It's always funny when guys that have disrespected women say, "Well, I've only ever treated them with respect." Never taking into account that there's someone else's perspective on the whole matter as well.
Yeah. So there's six. Sorry, the lawyer who contacted him initially, and contacted him to try and get an initial settlement of 6 figures, so minimum of $100,000. Although I expect that it's much more. The lawyer's name Tony Busby, great name. He says that there's now 3 lawsuits that have been filed. The most recent one of a woman accusing him of forcing her to perform oral sex onto him, and there's apparently 6 allegations, and now Eagle, actually, you mentioned to me.
There's up to 9 apparently that are there. So 3 have been filed. There's 3 that he's currently filing, and 3 more that have to be worked on after that. So either there's a gigantic conspiracy theory going on right now where a lawyer is looking to tarnish his name to try and falsely accuse this NFL star who's holding back to playing with his current team, or Deshaun Watson did some fucked up shit.
So,
well, it could be. I mean, there could be somewhere in between. I mean, but at the same time, I that's what I always hate about these situations, that we always take it for we see these reports in the news, and a lot of people, especially on a lot of people on social media, for example, they don't actually do any of the research themselves, don't actually look into any of the information, and just come out with a judgment based on whether they believe that he should be innocent or not. And in a way, when I hear that there's 9 allegations, I have to say it's pretty shocking. I mean, yes, I will never take a lawyer's word for it because, yeah, I mean, obviously they can be out for a payday, but we also don't want to minimize what some of these women and probably most of them have gone through. You know, it's not the time, and the timing, unfortunately, is terrible. You know,
I'm always careful to not accuse survivors or potential survivors of alleged sexual assault of lying, because then if I'm wrong, they were victims twice, right? Like, they were victimized in the actual situation, but then also they were made victims by people who have platforms. And so statistically, women don't lie about this because the shame that comes along with your whole life gets ruined if it turns out that you did lie about it. So it's very few. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It does happen. It's not common. It's much less common in a situation where there are 9 accusers. I will say there's a chance. I don't know if you guys remember this, but Ronaldo actually had a situation with an accuser that ended up settling out of court, and then it stops getting reported on, because what can you report on when someone's rich enough to sort of get away with it? And it seems sort of uncouth, but we always put value on situations and on human lives. And
well, we give the benefit of the doubt always to the athlete, and it's because there's this kind of legacy that's built behind that player. I mean, when we think of Deshaun Watson, what do we think about? We think he's a wholesome guy, has never caused a problem. He's been loyal to his franchise, obviously up until now. and we build this story in our head that it's this perfect person, and then when these reports come out, we never give benefit of the doubt to the victims, but we always do that for the star athlete.
Yeah.
We also don't know him as a person, right? Like, we don't know him. We're only reacting to what
we have no idea.
What I find interesting about the whole scenario is that if there was an attempt to get a payoff, as he claims, right, and you know that you have a lot of skeletons in your closet, wouldn't that incentivize you to take the cover-up deal and not have it go public? Like, why come out ahead, make a statement, right, and kind of say, I'm going to defend myself, knowing that there's a ton of people that are going to be, like, coming out against you? Like, that's the part I don't really understand on
PR,
this, you know?
But, Eagle, that's PR 101. Like, that's the thing is that
yeah, you get ahead of the story, but like now it's not one story. It's multiple stories of different accounts of similar pattern, right? I think that's the part that's
it happens every time because the lawyers will always tell you, like, never admit guilt, go out, defend yourself, and like what's going to happen. And the sad side of this is if this goes to court and this is something that actually happened, then Watson's lawyers will put these women on this, on trial, basically.
Yeah, like, they'll bring up their sexual history as well, just to tarnish them.
We see this when a cop kills somebody, they dig up, this guy smoked pot once in high school, or
look at Cosby, right? I mean, when Cosby was being accused for these sexual assaults and whatnot. I mean, what was the first thing that the lawyers did? They brought up the sexual history. They brought up the fact that, those women shouldn't have been there in the first place. They brought up the fact that they were sexually promiscuous. So never once were they looking at actually,
the guy who committed the crime.
Exactly. They were looking at this because he had this legacy that was pre-built, that when we hear these stories, the public defense is always going to steer in the favor of the athlete,
And that's the thing, is like, especially in the case of Bill Cosby, like, people just assumed he's Dr. Huxtable. People assume he's the kind old man from the Jell-O commercials. But like, that's you don't know who these people are. You don't know anything about Deshaun Watson other than what the team and he puts out there. And so look, I hope it's wrong. I hope that it didn't happen, because you know what? A world with less sexual assault is awesome. But like we're saying, if there's 9 accusers, man, the odds are stacked against them. One of the weird things, though, is the conspiracy theory that the team is spreading these rumors because they don't want to trade him. I'm like,
that's complete horseshit. That's complete fucking Twitter horseshit.
But like, if he feels as though you're making up a story about him being a rapist, why would he continue working for you? How does that help?
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. But I mean, nowadays, conspiracies are a dime a dozen. I mean, you can find one about anything. You can find something again, conspiracies about lettuce. And birds aren't real, so.
Yeah, we know that for sure. There's a similar story, unfortunately, that broke. It's not even breaking. It's something that's been investigated for decades at this point. It has to do with the English Football Association. They've been condemned for institutional failure in protecting children. The report lists at least 692 abuse survivors and 240 suspects. The report names a specific gentleman who's been covered constantly. He's sort of like the face of this awful case, Barry Bennell. He saw a wave of testimonies in 2016. He was the former youth talent scout for Manchester City. The inquiry found that the team's leadership in the 1980s did not investigate the rumors of Bennell's conduct, and he was even known around the club as the Kitty Fiddler.
Kitty Fiddler, yeah.
These complaints were even highlighted in a 1997 documentary. That is astounding. I can never understand why it is that employers will protect people like this, because there's no way you come out looking good, right? If you protect someone who did this, you're better off firing him, saying, "Hey, we had no idea. As soon as we knew, we got rid of him. We're gonna put in, these measures, and we're gonna make this a safer place." I don't understand the cover up. I find it's just dumb, and more than dumb, it legitimately hurts people.
So this is not in any way me siding with the English Federation, the English Soccer Federation at all. But I will say that it was a hell of a lot easier to cover up stories like this that in that time frame back then, and maybe they just didn't have the motivation to do so.
It's like the Sheldon Kennedy story in hockey, right? Like we found out there was all this stuff happening in youth hockey, and these are programs where people are away from their kids are away from their families for a long time, and that's what it takes for them to sort of get to professional levels, and then they don't have the protections that children typically have when they're in a family environment.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's extremely unfortunate because then this gets dug out. These these cases they surface back up to the light, and it's too late. A lot of the people that were abused, a lot of the people that that could have used healing and used support back then. I mean, they're much older now. They're dealing with traumas, and it's very hard to heal when you're this much older and when you've dealt with a lifetime of trauma to deal with.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Eagle, any thoughts?
I mean, I don't like soccer to begin with, so this gives me even more reason to hate it.
Yeah, it sucks. English soccer is like the only soccer I like, So it's but again, like the thing is it is important that these things are coming out. It's important that things are changing. We know that in hockey, it's been very different since all the information about Sheldon Kennedy came out, and he was brave enough to speak out. So gladly this has happened in soccer too, and hopefully eventually this kind of thing will be eradicated and situations like this can be avoided just with rules that make better sense and are better at protecting people. And we'll see if that comes of this. We'll see if that's the result of this, and hopefully that's the case. That was a lot of heavy stuff, guys. So we're going to take a little bit and go into something a bit lighter. NFL free agency. This is the time of year, Duke, where guys like you and I, we've been cheering for our teams. We haven't lived really to see. Well, no, you've seen one Raiders championship, right? No, they lost. They lost. That's the closest.
No. That was my first experience as a Raiders fan. Really, being as a kid, watching them get destroyed by the Bucs.
Eagle, you've lived through 2 Packers Super Bowls, right?
Just the one. Well, I mean, technically, I lived through the other one, but I wasn't actually watching at that point.
How old do you think we are, bro? How old do you think we are? I mean, we are old people, but
yeah. But so here's where the NFL does a thing, right? But from free agency to the NFL draft, we're trafficking in hope, and by week 4 and 5, we'll kind of get the vibe of you know what? Our team's probably okay, but not special. And this has been the Raiders, it's been the Dolphins forever. But now there's a new face of the false hope, or maybe Bill Belichick, a guy who's never really focused on free agency. That dude is spending with both hands. He's losing his mind. When you see what they gone out and get, he got some weapons for the newly re-signed Cam Newton, Jonnu Smith, and Hunter Henry. What are your thoughts, Duke, when you see that?
I think that a lot of the signings were very reasonable. I mean, knowing the Patriots, there's a lot of clauses in the contracts that allow them to cut these players without any without payment to some certain extent. But I mean, I really like the signing of both receivers, Aguilar and Bourne. I think both of them are excellent.
I thought that was a lot of money for those receivers, though. I think they just had to spend it on somebody, and those are the best.
That's just what the market is at the moment, and the fact is that I think that they wanted to secure. They didn't want to take any chances. The fact that they have already Cam Newton that's on a decline, they wanted to at least give him some weapons to work with. Which, my God, I mean, if you're Tom Brady right now looking at these signings, you're just asking yourself, why didn't I get this opportunity to have better wide receivers?
I mean, the 2 tight ends he had were Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez in his prime.
Yeah, well, of course, but I mean, did he ever experience a Belichick spending spree? No, he never did. So, and also in a sense, on the defensive side, very intelligent players that he signed, very good, very solid. He signed Mills, cornerback, I think from the Eagles. That guy from the Dolphins that I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Devon Godchaux, but that was one I was going to mention actually because nobody knows him because he plays on the Dolphins. Devon Godchaux is a very, very good defensive tackle.
Excellent.
Matt Judon
also
signing.
Yeah,
and
Matt
Kyle
Judon
Van Noy is back with the Patriots. Basically, they took pieces from the Dolphins in a trade and then sign back the player the next year. It was nonsense.
I just find the funniest thing is like now that we're in this time in NFL where teams are cutting players left and right because the cap is shrinking. Now all of a sudden the Patriots have money to spend. They didn't have before, but now that there's all this wealth of talent out there, they're the first one. They're first in the bank.
Like, half part of me thinks that Belichick just kind of got lucky, and then part of me is like, did he know? Did he know, like, okay, well, the cap's going to go down because we're going to lose football revenue, and everyone's going to have to cut people, and our cap was super low last year, so now I can just go out and get everyone. But to be fair, like, we always say the team that wins the offseason never has the success to match it. This is the first time we see the Patriots do that because the Patriots are usually the example of how you don't need to win the offseason. Yeah. Here they are.
I still think that in the NFL draft, the Patriots will draft a quarterback. I think that they will. They're going to spend some draft capital on trying to find a future quarterback because there's some very, very good, talented prospects out there. And with the signing of Cam Newton, I mean, they got a little bit of flack, especially from New England fans, thinking, this guy's worn out, and this and that. I mean, Cam Newton is still an excellent athlete. He could probably last you a good part of the season. But why not at this moment? You've spent a lot of capital on bringing in high caliber talent on both sides of the ball. This would be the time to draft, a potential replacement for Cam Newton, I
actually read contrary to that. The readings, I forget where it was, that Belichick apparently has been caught on record saying that this draft class actually is very low on talented quarterbacking, and that Cam Newton is actually someone he wants to continue to work with because he loves his work ethic, essentially. So I see this actually going in the opposite direction. I think they're going to try and use Newton as long as possible until they find their quarterback replacement, and that Jimmy Garoppolo is apparently back in the trade picture to bring him back to New England.
Well, we know Belichick loves Garoppolo, right? Like that was a whole thing where Brady went over Belichick's head to get Kraft to trade Garoppolo. But the move to me that signifies that this is a team being built around Cam Newton. Eagle, put up Julian Edelman's tweet.
Let me see if I can find it first.
It's in the script.
Yeah, I'll find it. Don't worry.
So I'll filibuster. So given that he signs Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, to me it's two tight ends who can catch the ball. The most success Cam Newton's ever had as a quarterback was with a young and healthy Greg Olsen. So he's always been comfortable throwing to the tight end, especially in red zone where Cam Newton was atrocious this season. Mm-hmm. Give him 2 targets he can use. There we go. The Boston tight end party.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
So, to me, this signifies that they're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets. They're going to use a lot of run-pass option, and they're going to throw to those tight ends in the red zone. So I think I disagree. I'm going to side with the Eagle on this one. I think it looks like they're doing what they can to keep Cam Newton around until they absolutely find who they think the next quarterback of the future is.
Yeah, I mean,
and that might just be the previous quarterback of the future, Jimmy Garoppolo.
I absolutely want Cam to succeed. He is by far one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. He's always been an exciting athlete and whatnot. It's unfortunate that the past 2 seasons, I mean, one with his last season with Carolina and with New England last year, there just seems to be something off with his throwing mechanics. And obviously with the game plan that you're suggesting, Pease, there's less of a reliance on his accuracy so much because a lot of it's going to be short kind of passes and whatnot. Yeah. However, in the NFL, when you're playing against really good teams and you're only able to to complete short passes and to rely on short yardage plays, that can always be kind of a killer. So with the additions that they've made, I can foresee them being really, really good, but the weakness being the quarterback play. So now they might not draft a quarterback, but it might be sensible for them to do so. I just think that when we're talking about the caliber of quarterbacks in the NFL right now, a lot of it has to do with the competition that they've played and with the lack of games and the lack of sample size that we have on these athletes.
Eagle, the Bucks look like they're ready to run it back this year, and I feel like the best way to sum up their offseason is with the tweet that they put out. This short video. Do you have it ready?
I do not, because you linked the wrong one. I'll find it.
All right, that's my bad. I thought I was about to lose it on you. I'm like, you see it, you know it's the next thing we're going to.
Oh, I know. It wasn't the right one, so it's okay.
Hot sauce blurts.
My
We
bad.
become hot sauce blurts.
Yeah. So
Filibuster.
the Bucks, re-signing Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett finally getting recognition. He's always been a player I liked a lot, and like he just got a huge contract. Denver basically let him go because they're like, we have a lot of defensive ends, and you're not really getting on the field.
And they all got injured.
Yeah, exactly. How much would they have left to have had him this past season?
Can I just say something? Drew Lock gets so much hate, and some of it I understand, but
That wasn't it, Eagle.
All right, we'll find the other one then. Jeez.
No. So anyway, I'll just explain the video. It's a video of. By the way, Duke, thank you so much for trying to help with the filibustering about Drew Lock. Like,
I love Drew Lock. I love him. I love him. He's so careless. He runs around. I want to be his friend. I want to bring him on the podcast just to tell him how much I love him.
You would be.
Also, I used to have a fake ID once, and I had my name was Drew Lock on the fake ID.
I remember that fake ID. So the thing is, no, wasn't it John Locke?
It was John Locke, but I altered the story just for me.
Oh, sorry. The thing is, the video was, it was Gronk signing his contract, and it's just Brady and Gronk laughing. Gronk, of course, wearing just like a white undershirt, in the meathead Gronk styles ever. And what I saw when I saw that video, I was like, man, like, maybe it's just because Brady's not in the AFC East anymore, tormenting my Dolphins. But I kind of really like this Tom Brady, this guy who's
it's the best. It's the best.
I wish it would have been him his whole career because he's just having a good time. There it is. Thank you, Eagle.
He probably's always been this guy, but Belichick's always been trying to suck out the life out of him, you know?
But like, it's so weird that in his late 40s, he's having like this, not only like a career resurgence, well, I mean, resurgence isn't the right word, just because
personality resurgence.
Yeah, it's a personality resurgence, exactly that.
Yeah,
you never knew he had a personality till then.
I mean, the only personality that we saw Brady before was him kissing his son in the mouth. That was it. That was the only personality we saw.
That's true. Very controversial personality at that. Yet the Bears pursued a quarterback with even less personality. It was Russell Wilson, and instead they got one with even less personality in Andy Dalton. I'm at a point now where I actually feel bad for Bears fans. Even their best quarterback in their history, which is McMahon or Jay Cutler, is not even a great quarterback, right? Like none of their best quarterbacks would be like third or fourth in most other like respectable franchises. But here they are, Andy Dalton. Let's see what you can do with Nick Foles and Andy Dalton.
I just find it so funny because there's something about the Bears and quarterbacks. They're allergic to having a talented quarterback in the huddle. I mean, they traded up to get Trubisky in a draft that was loaded with talent.
It was loaded with Pat Mahomes.
And Deshaun Watson, who might be going to jail. We don't know
yet.
Yeah,
I know. So, but either way, he's a very, very good quarterback.
But I wonder what it is about the Bears that is it because players don't want to necessarily go there? You know, like do quarterbacks not want to go there because maybe they just have a history of disrespecting them contract-wise, or
I think Ryan Pace is he's bad at deciding whether or not a player's talented. I'm not convinced that Matt Nagy is a particularly great coach. I never really liked Trubisky. A lot of the pieces they surrounded them with are guys that like, okay, you know, you got Allen Robinson, who's a very good wide receiver. But after that, it's a huge drop off in terms of their skill position talent. We're gonna up our skill position talent right now because we're gonna get to our interview. We're gonna bring on Luca Scott of the We Got Balls podcast, debuting soon on Hot Sauce Sports. We're going to talk to him about basketball, about the NBA and the tournament, and it's coming up next. And we're back, I think. We did that
we're
thing
back.
where
You're
we're
still
back.
frozen, though.
Nice. I know. I listen, man. That's going to be the thing. I feel like I should be part of Disney. They should be paying me royalties for reminding everyone about the incredible animated film. Joining us is a new member of our incredibly talented team, a team that's growing by leaps and bounds in 2021. We're happy to have his new podcast. He's half of the team representing that new podcast. Luca Scott joins us. The show is going to be called the We Got Balls podcast. We're happy to have you aboard, Luca. So first of all, tell us about you and what we can expect from your show.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. It's much appreciated. I'm honored and excited to hop on board and see where we can go. So about me, little about me is, nothing crazy. I fell in love with sports. The first sporting event I ever watched was the 2005 Super Bowl, Steelers and Seahawks. Started off as a Seahawks fan for that game. But then when the Steelers won, I decided to switch allegiance and become a Steeler fan. So, just after that, I kind of fell in love with sports and seeing Stephen A. and all these guys, talk sports for a living, and the passion that they had while talking about sports kind of influenced me and made me figure out early on in high school that I wanted to talk sports. So the We Got Balls podcast, a former classmate of mine at Concordia University, Dean Bertoya, we decided to, we had already spoken about starting a podcast before I got in touch with Pease, and it's like the stars kind of aligned, you know what I mean? We spoke, and then I, brought up Dean, and we kind of just took it from there. So we're excited to start this podcast. We're trying to, do it a bit different. Trying to have our betting takes, you know what I mean, for the public, and what we think are the locks for the week, where we went wrong. Definitely going to be calling each other out on some terrible picks, because there will be terrible picks. It happens.
There always is.
I told them this last year. I had the Clippers winning it all last year, and boy, that would have been a segment. I probably would have ducked under the table or something, because I would have been super embarrassed. So it's going to be fun. I'm excited. Look out for some hot takes, some good takes. We're excited to present it to you guys and see what reception we get.
Well, we're happy to have you, and it is a podcast that is centered on football and basketball. Today we're going to talk a lot about basketball because football season is done, but we do have a lot of basketball going on, and we do have the March Madness tournament, which we're going to get through some of those picks there, so we can then laugh at you when you're completely wrong in exactly like 18 hours from now. When all of our brackets are completely broken and we're just crying.
Yeah.
So the first thing that comes to mind when you see LeBron James, he's become the owner now, one of the owners of the Red Sox. He and Mav Carter, the first black partners to join Fenway Sports Group in their history. What does that mean to you for an active player to get this involved? Not only we've seen obviously what he's done on the business end with shoes and so on, but actually be involved in owning a professional sports team at this juncture.
I think it's important that you even specified it, active player. You don't normally see this from players that are active, especially to the caliber of LeBron James. Like, it's LeBron James, and he's still, I view and many others view that he's still the best player in the world. So for him to be doing stuff like this while he's the best player in the world, like Magic Johnson didn't get into that really until after. He became a part owner of the Dodgers or the LA Sparks. So it's Michael Jordan, same with the Hornets. So a lot of these things don't happen while the player is still in his prime. So I think it's incredible that he's able to do that. And of course, to see how far he's come and his group have come with Rich Paul, Maverick Carter since LeBron came into the league. I think it's incredible. And I was surprised that he chose the Red Sox. I know he's like, he supports the Cleveland Indians. You know what I mean? They had him and D-Wade had that bet in the 2016 World Series. But no, I think it's great. You know what I mean? And I think it's important also that, they're both being black men. And, Boston has a history in the past of racist issues in the past. So I think it's important that they have that black voice within the organization. I know he's just a part owner, but it's still good to have LeBron, someone who stands for racial issues and social issues, and is not afraid to use his voice to speak. I think it's a great thing.
But they're just trolling Celtics fans, right? Like that's really what this is about. Like they ended that dynasty that never got started, and now this.
I mean, they're gonna have to just appreciate LeBron at some point. He's tortured them for years since he went to Miami, and now, I mean, if they start bringing World Series with him in the organization in Boston, they're gonna have to just appreciate him and just welcome him with open arms, because he's been tormenting them for years.
All right, so this is some of the awkwardness of doing this online. I thought Duke had a question. I'll follow up.
No way.
Your face is frozen and your tongue, and you're like licking your lips.
It's the worst.
You want these questions? I can ask about the Knicks any day. I have so many questions about the Knicks.
Go for it.
But I know no one cares about the Knicks. So
I love the Knicks.
Dude, this team, like, am I getting excited for nothing? Now, I looked, and they're 20-21. All right? We're not 500. Okay? But this is as close as it gets. You got to understand. I'm a Raiders fan, first and foremost.
Oh, God.
And I'm a Knicks fan. So you gotta, and the two soccer teams I like too are also terrible. So give me something, man. Give me something to look forward to.
Listen, I've probably been more hopeful for some of these recent Knicks teams more than you, because when you guys had Kristaps still and Melo was there, I was like, oh, the Knicks. I've been seeing the Knicks are gonna make the playoffs for like the last few years. I've been horribly wrong. Horribly wrong. I like the Knicks a lot. I like them, and obviously, I was praying that you guys would get Zion, because I think Zion in New York City would be fantastic.
I mean, listen, it was the biggest heartbreak of my life when we didn't get Zion, and it was the way that draft happened, where like it literally cut to commercial. Before the commercial, Knicks fans are freaking out because they're like, oh yeah, we might get the first round pick, and then come back from commercial, boom, nope, didn't get it, and then we ended up. Well, RJ Barrett's been kind of amazing though, so
he's very good. RJ is I kind of lost a little bit of faith after their NCAA game where they got knocked out, because he had a chance to, I believe it was like tie up the game at the free throw line.
Yeah.
And this was, I believe at this point they were calling him like the Maple Mamba or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm a big Kobe guy, right? Like Kobe's my favorite player of all time. So they're calling him Maple Mamba, and he went to the free throw line and bricked the free throw. I was like, no, like this, revoke this Maple Mamba name from him, please. Like it's just, I was upset. I lost faith. But he's been, even last season, it's kind of messed up that he didn't make the all-rookie team. I thought that he should have. But at least the second team, I thought it was a bit ridiculous, but whatever. This year, he
did miss some time last season, which I think
he did miss some time. But there was, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there were other players in the second team specifically that did not deserve to be there over him, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I don't find he missed enough games to like not qualify him for one of the spots.
That's fair.
This season, I mean, I thought you guys had a chance to make the playoffs, but I think like in the East, it's competitive within like the bottom, like after Milwaukee, Philly, and Nets, because like they're just above and beyond everyone else. It's very competitive, but it's like the records are kind of bad, if we're gonna be quite honest. Even the Celtics, I'm really surprised. I know Marcus Smart was injured and Kemba, this and that, but Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have been there.
So what you're saying is that it's all LeBron James's fault for not joining the Knicks and joining the Lakers instead, right? Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
Listen, I'm a Laker fan, so I'm not going to complain. I'm happy that he came to the Lakers, because we had a little rough patch where we were irrelevant for like 5+ years, and it was hurting.
Yeah, I'm glad he went. I'm glad he went to the Lakers, man. I really am.
Me too. It's awesome. But no, I think the Knicks got a bright future. And I mean, Brian Windhorst said that within the next 2 years, expect a big time free agent or a big superstar player to come to the Knicks. So we'll see.
I love it.
They definitely have some more building blocks than they've had in the past. Luca, this time last week on the show, we talked about the events that transpired with Myers Leonard, and I kind of broke down the situation saying, well, the thing is, if he's on the team now, he's only going to be there till the trade deadline at the latest. And the reason why is because of the value of clearing off his contract, because it frees up sort of like a trade exemption. So in doing so, he's not going to play a single game for the Thunder. But they acquired Trevor Ariza. Now, obviously, he did something terrible and he has to pay the consequence for that. That's fine. But it kind of becomes like, when you look at this from a business perspective, they got some decent shooting, which is important for how the Heat play, and some outside the perimeter defense. So
Yeah.
weirdly, net win for Miami, or just like it's a loss because it's a shitty thing to happen?
It's first of all, you have to let go of Miles Leonard. There's no way you could have kept him on your team. The chemistry in the locker room, the public outcry, like it just wouldn't have worked, in my opinion. Trevor Ariza, now you wish for Miami's sake that he was a bit younger. Maybe like the first season that he was with the Rockets with Chris Paul and James Harden. Like, if you got that version of Trevor Ariza, I think it'd be even better. He's still a good veteran presence for them. Him and Iguodala, they're kind of like, obviously Iguodala was better at his best, but they're kind of the same type of player.
Yeah.
I think it's good for Miami. I don't think that it's going to do anything for them. I think, to me, the conference finals, assuming health, of course, for Philadelphia, is set already, unless they play each other before the conference finals. Philly and the Nets. That's, to me, Milwaukee. They're just missing.
I think if you look at some of the advanced analytics, they're actually better than they were last year. And they've also played a long stretch of their games without Drew Holiday, which is a big deal.
They had, that's true. He missed quite a bit of time. But even if you're looking at last night's game, they were down, I believe, what was it, 18?
Yeah.
To Joel Embiid-less Philadelphia team, and Seth Curry got hurt. They won by 4 in overtime. I think if I'm Philly, I'm feeling good. I know we lost, but I feel like we could not easily, but we can beat this team. I feel like they can handle that. With Joel Embiid back, if he's 100% healthy and ready to go, I think Philly's going to go to the finals if he's healthy, if everyone's healthy, of course.
Yeah,
just because the Nets, if they get Andre Drummond, then all bets are off. I take back what I said. It's over. But if they don't, if they remain as is, I think Joel Embiid is just going to be too unstoppable. And I know they have.
The Nets, though, like there's never been a team this historically bad on defense. Like
they can tamper sometimes.
I kept telling the guys, like, I think it's going to be like year one of the Big Three in Miami, where it's like fine, but they need to add a couple other pieces just to round out the team. Like, that's what the Nets feel like. They're going to be good for another 5 or 6 years after this, but right now they're missing some key pieces. A guy like Trevor Ariza would have really helped them, believe it or not, because again, he gives the perimeter defense that they're really lacking. Tell us about your what can we expect from the NCAA tournament this year? What can we expect?
I know I mentioned earlier, when I was speaking to you, that it seems like it's poised to have major upsets. Well, as I was filling out my bracket, though, I couldn't come to choose very many upsets, to be honest with you. Just because, I don't know, it's just a feeling. I don't have Gonzaga making it to the Final Four.
It's hard, though, because they're so good. Like, they've been the best team in the country, right? So
they have. I have Iowa beating them. I think Luca Garza. The thing is that I know he's not a guard, but for me, in my opinion, the March Madness is like a guard-driven tournament. You know what I mean? We've seen so many guards come in and just absolutely go crazy and lead their team quite far. We saw it with Shabazz Napier, Kemba Walker, Dwayne Wade. Like, we've seen it before. I'm kind of factoring in history, and I know I shouldn't be, but as it pertains to Baylor and Gonzaga, we've seen these teams be good in the tournament before and have great teams and be hyped up to, okay, they're going to win it this year, they're going to make a Final Four, and it just never pans out. And I know I shouldn't be looking at history of past tournaments because anything can happen, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to make it. I think Iowa will be able to beat them. I have Michigan going to the finals. Actually, I'm a bit nervous because Isaiah Livers is injured and he's not going to be playing for the tournament. So I'm worried about that. But I have Michigan making it. I have to the Final Four. I have Arkansas making it to the Final Four, and I have Oklahoma State. Just because of Cade Cunningham. If it wasn't for Cade Cunningham, definitely would not be picking Oklahoma State. But like I said, I think it's a guard-driven tournament. I think this is Cade Cunningham's time to showcase why he's the number one overall pick. So I'm excited to see.
You don't see Illinois going to the Final Four?
I don't. And I don't just because I think Oklahoma State is going to beat them.
Could be, because that last stretch of games were really impressive. Illinois, end of the season, was, the hottest team going into the tournament, right? So if it's
I just
people
believe
the momentum argument, like they have it, right?
Yeah, no, they definitely proved themselves. They're no slouch at all. I'm not sold 100%. If they weren't in the same bracket, the same side as Oklahoma State, I would pick them. But like I said, I think guard driven. I think Cade Cunningham's potential number one overall pick. I think this is his time to showcase what he can really do. Actually, I don't even think I have Illinois making it to the Elite Eight.
Jeez. Okay. Well, we'll see. I got them. Yeah. I got Oklahoma State not making the Final Four. I got Illinois making the Final Four. But we'll see. We'll see which of our brackets get busted immediately. I say both. Luca, thank you for joining us again. The podcast is the We Got Balls podcast. You're gonna start seeing some blogs out by Luca, blogs out by Dean Bertoya, and the weekly podcast with these two guys. I'm really excited. Glad to have you guys aboard.
Thanks for having us.
Looking forward to it, man.
Take care.
And we're back.
I was going to do it. I was asking you if I had to do it. Anyway,
and we're back.
Thank you, Eagle. So we talked about this a little bit at the top of the show. There was a horrible string of shootings that happened just outside Atlanta Metro in Georgia a couple days ago. The police were quick to issue a statement saying that they did not think this was a hate crime, as we see violence against Asian Americans rising, in part due to people believing that the coronavirus and measures related to coronavirus can be blamed on a specific country. People should take basic science that would indicate that that's not how viruses work. But anyway, the violence, of course, is not something that should be tolerated, and it's completely awful. The police also said, again, like I said, they did not term it a hate crime. Hate crime, by definition, is violence that is carried out towards a specific group of people. The specific group of people that were targeted were women, and they were Asian women. So even if it is to believe that this is because this is someone who blamed sort of pornography and the morals of the day, it's still a targeted crime. It still needs to be treated as such. And I'm hoping that that's going to be the coverage that we see moving forward. Although, unfortunately, it's often not the case. So I'm happy to see a lot of prominent voices speaking out, saying that this is the case. One thing I saw, Duke, I don't remember if I heard it on a podcast or saw it in a documentary. It was about a year ago, and they're talking about one of the famous heads of the KKK, and one of the dogmas that he really spread early on in the early days of the KKK was to focus on getting people to not masturbate because it was a loss of control. And so when you hear this guy talking about, he murdered these women because he couldn't control himself. That sort of just all ties a neat little ribbon on it for me. It's obviously speculative. I'm not interviewing the dude. It's hard to extend the benefit of the doubt to someone who just, did something absolutely awful and absolutely irreversible. And we're going to address it with more information, hopefully by next show where more information is available. But we did not want a whole week to go by without having any address on it whatsoever. So that said, you turn to sports for a distraction, and you turn to us for a distraction from sports. So let's do that. We're gonna get to rapid fire, have a little fun, and hopefully put a smile on your face and otherwise a dismal week.
So let's start with our first topic here. Rocket mortgage to the moon. Michigan State men's. Go ahead, Duke.
I'm glad I had a chance to say something there.
No, you don't. We go straight into rapid fire.
I was just going to make it a statement. We're going to move on.
No, for sure. No. I would want to say something. I wouldn't want to be.
I didn't know if you're comfortable. I don't want to put you on the spot. That's fine.
Believe me, I'm comfortable talking about anything. I mean, talk about anything when it comes to these matters. And as I've said before, I almost prefer talking about social matters than I do talking about sports because, I mean, who cares about sports really? But
I mean, our audience does.
Our sponsors, our audience,
the response from the sheriff office was really, really interesting, and not in a good way. This was a sheriff who had posted had posted anti-Asian comments on his own social media feed. He was peddling his own conspiracies about the vaccine being fake. And while we might feel like it's conflation to say, well, what does this have to do with the virus or anything? The fact is that for the past 4 years, there was a president of the United States that had no problem at all victimizing and making Asians the specifically Chinese the reason why there was a pandemic. And regardless of regardless of anyone's personal feelings on the matter. Not one group should ever be blamed for anything this horrendous in life. But when you see a crime like this happen, and when you see that specific people are targeted, and when you see that the police response is not to say that it is a crime, but to try and deflect it onto other matters, it just feels like there's a sense of injustice there. Because had this been a man of color, had this been a black man doing this, what would the story have been? What would the police response have been? I hate to bring it down to race, but unfortunately, just one of these stories. So, and I know, Pease, I know you're saying that we're going to wait to hear more details, but I don't feel like we're going to get any details, at least for a long time.
One thing is we're going to hope. I take it upon myself to try and do some reading on these issues because they tend to vanish from especially like social media feeds and stuff after the initial impact. I'm the oldest guy at Hot Sports, right? I still read newspapers. The reason I do is because that's where this kind of reporting gets done. If you're like me and you're interested, please do the research because you're gonna get let down by social media if that's where you get the bulk of your news. I will say.
Sorry. Just because I need to say something. Just when Dylan Roof shot up a church, was there any other details about it? Was there, when after shooting up a church, he was, politely arrested. He obviously I can't speak for how his treatment is now, but I mean we never got to find any.
He had the dignity of not having his neck knelt on, if that's what you mean.
Exactly.
The thing is, and in these cases. Especially if you refer to specifically television news networks, they never refer to these as domestic terrorism, which is exactly what they are. They incite terror and their crimes committed against specific groups and people. As for again, this isn't even about politics. This is something that happened with the previous president of the United States. He, like you said, he made a scapegoat of a specific group of people. And if you are people who are already so inclined towards hatred, towards racism, and the leader of your country is referring to a virus by its geographical location and associating it to a specific group of people, all that does is divide, and all it does is empower people who are otherwise filled with hate. So again, we're going to continue to address it as we get more information. Hopefully we do. Until then, let's try and lighten things up as we get out of here.
All right, boys. So let's try this again, shall we? Rocket mortgage to the moon. Michigan State men's basketball team has signed a new sponsorship agreement and will now be known as the Michigan State Spartans, presented by Rocket Mortgage.
Go ahead, Duke.
Hey, listen.
I think you know where I'm going to go.
I am. I look. It sounds dumb. It's pretty bad. These universities are going to try and find any way to milk money out of it right now, and they're going to use the losses of this pandemic to try and find ways to not pay their players, and they're going to take on huge sponsorships. They're going to put sponsors on their jerseys. They're going to sell merchandise with players' names on it. And when it comes down to paying players, they're not going to say anything about it. And at any time that a player ever wants a dime from this, they get the hate and the vitriol from the right wing media. So yeah, I don't know. I don't like what it looks like, and I specifically don't like when there's these huge when it's just out in the daylight. Like we see the greed, we see the gluttony.
I disagree. See, I think you thought I was going to go there, and to be honest, I was, but I've just reframed it. I'm exceptionally happy that the greed is this obvious. I was, you know what?
Yeah, we see it. It's not hidden.
The quote-unquote student athlete different from all other students who were not on campus. They had them, and the athletes come in at a time during a pandemic
and get
because
sick.
Obviously, that was more important to them than academics. And now we've got to the point where let's stop pretending. Let's stop pretending it's amateur sports when you're renaming your team the Rocket Mortgages.
No.
At this point,
blatant.
Let the players take advantage of it. Is all. Share your bit of the pie.
Maybe they're going to get really good mortgage rates on their house that they can't buy because their student loans are so high.
They still can't afford.
You see, this is why we need Terry on the show, because I feel like we tend to have the similar opinion on these matters.
You said it was a bad idea. I said it was a good idea, but we basically said the same thing.
Basically the same thing, yeah, exactly.
Next, full disclosure. There's been a leak out of the LA police office, let's call it that, regarding details of the Kobe Bryant helicopter crash, including photos and information about the case. So Vanessa Bryant has taken the dignity back into her hands and has released the names of said leakers that have now leaked all that information. So the LA Sheriff, Alex Villanueva, has a response for this. You'll see it on the screen right now. We will refrain from trying this case in the media and will wait for the appropriate venue. Our hearts go out to all the families affected by this tragedy. Thoughts?
So what was leaked? What was leaked exactly?
There was photos of
the crash,
of the crash of Gianna's body, of Kobe's body. Basically, Vanessa Bryant said there was no benefit to.
No, there's none at all.
This other than sensationalism, right? So I think she's absolutely on the right side of this. I remember actually hearing that the way she found out was not that she got a call from the police officers or the police station, but she saw it on the news first. So it was completely mishandled from the front of it. And I do find it funny that Villanueva is saying that he's not going to try this in the media, where he's the kind of sheriff who gets his face in front of the camera as often as possible.
Yeah.
All right. Next on the docket over here, a giant mistake. Patrick Ewing took exception to being accosted.
Patrick Ewing. Get that fucking name right.
Okay, so you scroll
my Lord and Savior.
I get the other ones.
He's my Lord and Savior. Don't you dare.
So he took exception.
He was even in Space Jam.
He was. He took exception to being accosted by MSG security recently with a general statement. So here's what he had to say.
I want to say one thing.
Look at this guy.
I thought this was my building.
You always look
and
like
I feel terrible that I'm getting stopped, accosted, asking for passes. Everybody in this building should know who the hell I am. And I'm getting stopped. I can't move around this building. Like I was like, what the hell? Is this Madison Square Garden? I'm going to have to call Mr. Dolan and say, geez.
Peace. You want to go first, or you want me to torch this?
All right, let's go to Bobby Bancroft.
Look, it works better if you let the clip play first.
I don't know. It's skipping on my end. I don't know. I can't tell if it's done or not.
It's done.
Go first. Here, just to make it easier. Just to make it easier, because everything's sort of cutting today. Go first on all the topics, and I'll follow up.
Beautiful. I love it. So number one, got to know who the guy is. But at the same time, I mean, I could feel for this poor kid that is just trying to do his job. Might be his first day on a job. Might not even follow basketball. Probably got the job, a few days ago. And he's asking Patrick Ewing. Yeah, and he's like asking Patrick Ewing for a pass because he doesn't know who he is. I never like when celebrities pull that card, like, do you know who I am? When most kids haven't even seen Patrick Ewing play, unless you actively look for his highlights on YouTube. But that's a bad spot there. You got to know who he is. His jersey's in the rafters.
He can literally point and say that's me. He can point up and say that's me.
But he's saying that he's been asked to provide his pass on multiple spots. I do feel like this might be a Dolan thing. I mean, he's been pretty stingy with a lot of his athletes lately, especially when it comes to Charles Oakley. So, I feel for all sides, but you just got to know who the guy is.
So my thing is, if it's a 6'4" point guard who retired from the league and been like, yeah, you know what? This guy's probably just someone trying to sneak onto the court. But Patrick Ewing, 7'1", it's got to at least cross your mind that this is somebody who might be involved with the game. My thing is, the way this segment started, the way this question started, Eagle asking, setting it up, calling him Patrick Ewing. I was like, so Eagle would have been that guy not recognizing Patrick Ewing.
Yeah,
and then all of 5 Eagle is trying to stop Patrick Ewing.
Hey, I recognize people. I just can't pronounce their names. There's a difference. I'm really good with faces, really bad with words.
The idea of Eagle asking Patrick Ewing to leave Madison Square Garden is now my favorite image. I want you to Photoshop that, Duke, so it could be.
I'm on it.
Technically, the image already exists. Go take the shot from Space Jam when his powers get stolen. I'm the little alien. There we go. Next topic here, benchmarking. Trent Williams recently signed a brand new contract, making him the highest paid offensive lineman in the league. But just enough. The previous owner of that record was David Bakhtiari for the Green Bay Packers, who currently makes $23 million a year. Trent Williams is now making $23,010,000 a year. And so Dave Bakhtiari tweeted out what you can see on your screen. You petty as fuck. Congrats on the deal, and history Silverback, very deserving. Excited to see you continue to do gorilla things.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm supposed to comment on offensive linemen getting mad at each other. I mean,
nobody's mad.
Actually, I have no idea what I'm reading here. There's too many emojis. Can someone explain it to me?
Okay, so for Old Man Duke, his nickname is Silverback. A lot of people on Twitter thought this was like a racial thing of David Bakhtiari calling him a gorilla, and no, the two are very obviously friendly, if not friends. And it was just like the pettiest thing of like, you know what, whatever Bakhtiari got, just give me I don't know, $10,000 more. It's to the point of $10,000 on a contract like that is like a stick of gum.
I mean, anytime you tell a black guy to continue doing that emoji things, you're asking.
Yeah, I know, but the guy's got a Silverback tattoo on his shoulder.
But nobody knows that. No one cares about offensive linemen except for people on Facebook. So
it's true. You dealt with your own heat for that today. Donald Penn, Vader's legend.
I just find it very hypocritical of you P's to be judging someone for saying, oh, this is such a petty thing, when between the two of us, we have the exact same agreement.
I never want to do salary negotiations, so whenever I've had to do it, I always say, just pay me $1 more than Eagle. And it's literally been our arrangement for our entire careers working together.
Yep.
That is petty AF.
All right, next. Hold your applause. Blake Griffin has recently changed teams, but seems to have forgot that he no longer plays for the Detroit Pistons, as he is caught cheering on the wrong team.
Come on, you can't be on this guy's back about this. He's been playing for Detroit for how long now?
2 years.
I feel like it's more like 4 years, no?
Between 2 and 4. Way to cut out the music, Eagle. That would have gotten us a copyright infringement.
You are welcome.
He just flinches. I don't see a celebration or anything. Oh, okay.
He was about to go clap.
Yeah.
I gotta admit, it happens to me too. Where I'm watching a Dolphins game, for example, and the Patriots score, and for a second I'm like, oh shit, wrong team. God damn it. You're barely paying attention. You're doing something else. You look up, you see a score. You want to be happy because happy things are happening, and then you realize, oh no, that happened against me. It's sadness.
And then our last topic for today, the ancient ways. Sometimes the internet has the strangest things, Rule 34 not included. Troy Casey, self-proclaimed president of planet Earth, has showcased a strange technique that has increased his stamina in the bedroom, apparently.
Nice.
So we're going to be able to check this out in just a second.
You gotta, there you go. All right, so he's flipping his cock.
The ball slapping.
Oh.
Guaranteed, this dude's never been invited to a party before. Like,
I don't know, that's a great party technique. Like, they're like, oh, yeah, you have like a special talent? He's like, oh, let me whip it out and show you.
The high school talent show was probably really awkward for him. The honestly, look, this is the kind of time. This is the time where I see this, and he called this a Chinese remedy, and it comes to a time where you look at this and you say, "There's no way we can prove that." Like, ancient civilizations weren't on YouTube. I can't go check to see if they were slapping their nuts. All right, I'll assume you're right. And then I thought to myself, we really need to get like Roman Swipes or one of those guys as a sponsor, because that would have been a perfect way to tie it into our sponsors. But in the absence of that, it's just the guy slapping on his cock.
I say we invite him on as a guest, but we just focus the camera on his balls.
Yeah, we tell him, just do the interview in front of your computer and stand up.
Yeah.
Just stand up. That's the one. That's the move.
We didn't slap. We got to slap.
Maybe next time. Maybe next time after I practice the ancient Chinese art of ball slapping.
And that's it this week, boys.
That was it.
Did you hear what Luca said about my Knicks?
Yeah, he said they're 20-21. They're a game under 500, and you're celebrating like they're a contender.
When they win a championship, I'm gonna laugh at all you. I'm gonna laugh at everybody.
In the meantime, we continue to laugh at you instead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
a man can dream.
For those of you who have not yet liked, subscribed, all those things, please do so. We do appreciate that. If you listen as well, that would be awesome. Otherwise, if you want to just collect some money in a fountain, collect change in a fountain, bring that change over to Duke's house.
They still do that?
He would buy himself at least one McCain Deep and Delicious cake, because it is both deep and delicious. In the meantime, Duke, thank you for filling in today. This was a lot of fun. I missed doing the show with you. Eagle, thank you for keeping us on the rails. Special thank you to new contributor Luca Scott for coming on the show. And thank you all for letting me be myself.
Take care, boys.
You've been listening to Hot Sauce Sports.